All right, good morning, everyone. It's Miss Camastro here, 5th grade teacher at PS89Q. I am just in my living room. See me on my nice comfortable couch. Maybe I'll recline my feet a little bit and get ready for some reading. All right, so I hope you guys are all enjoying, trying to enjoy this quarantine that we have going on with this crazy period in time. I mean, I'm sure nobody thought a week ago school would be closed and you'd be listening to your teachers on the computer. Well, anyway, we're trying to make it as happy and comfortable and easy to adjust at home as we can. So I'm going to start off by reading a book called Night of the Spadefoot Toads. Okay? So you got to bear with me because remember, I teach math, but I do know how to read. Okay? So we're going to read Night of the Spadefoot Toads. Now, the back of this says, a riot of sounds rises and falls all around them. They're surrounded by this crazy orchestra. The wind in the trees, the thunder in the sky, the rain pattering on the pool, and their jackets, the spring peepers chirping in the distance. And these little Spadefoot toads right before them are leading the symphony. Okay, so this happens to be one of my favorite books. It's all written in. You can see marks, underlines, all those things in it because it's one of my favorite books to read. Okay, now you ask yourself, why did Miss Camastro pick this book? Well, the dedication says this book is dedicated to all teachers of science who instill a sense of wonder for the natural world in their students. In particular, to my friends Susie Williams, Rob Otter Brown, Suzanne Elliott, and most especially Carol Eaton, who showed me the Spadefoots close to my home on a very rainy April night. Now, I think that for the time being, where we are in history, this is a good book. It teaches us how to adjust to new situations and make new friends or stay close to the ones we have. Night of the Spadefoot Toads is about a boy named Ben who moves to a new town and a new school and the situations that he's put in at his new school. Now I'm asking you to join me as I read. Today I'm going to read chapter 1. Tomorrow I'll read chapter 2. Now you can get on your couch, relax, and listen. Maybe we should move this couch a little bit closer. Maybe a little better so you could see as I read. All right. So I'm going to read chapter 1. That new teacher, Miss Tibbets, is 100 years old. You'll see, Frankie announces. 200 years old, another boy says. Ben Maroney ignores them as he heads down the hall. Jenny Ferreira is walking beside them. The other kids in his 5th grade class are stretched out in a loose lineup and down the hallway, headed to science class. Miss Tibbets isn't that old, Jenny tells Ben. And she's not a new teacher. She's just been out for a while. My brother had her in 5th grade a couple of years ago. Ben nods. He likes Jenny. She's one of the few kids who talk to him. Maybe just because he sits behind her in class. He's been at Eatonboro Elementary School for 2 months, but he still feels new. Now they've got a new science teacher too. She's new to Ben, at least. Everybody else in the class seems to know her. Now, as I continue to read, I want you to ask yourself, have you ever been new to a situation? New to a school, new to a team, new to a group of friends? Let's think about how Ben feels as we're reading chapter 1. She's 1,000,000 years old, Frankie shouts so everyone in the hall can hear. He bends over and hobbles down the hall like an old woman, and Tommy Miller and Dennis DeMille laugh. Frankie thinks he's a lot funnier than he is, but there are always kids who'll laugh at him, even when he's being mean. I'm sure we all know a kid like this. Raise your hand. Do we know a Frankie who thinks it's funny to be mean, but it's really not? It's strange to get a new science teacher at the end of March. Ben wonders where Miss Tibbets has been, and more importantly, why she came back. When Ben walks into the classroom, he doesn't see the science teacher, but he does see the mice. They're in a new cage on a table against the back wall, next to stacks of textbooks and papers. He figures there are half a dozen mice in it. Ben knows something about mice, but not as pets. He knows about mice as food for diamondback rattlesnakes. He's seen rattlesnakes eat mice lots of times. There are no diamondback rattlesnakes in Eatonboro, Massachusetts. Ben's pretty sure of that. The rattlesnakes he used to watch were at the Desert Museum in Tucson, Arizona, where he lived until February, along with whip snakes and sidewinders and horned toads and chuckawalla lizards. All he's seen since they moved to Massachusetts were some squirrels and chipmunks in his backyard and some birds at the window feeder. Ben walks towards the cage to get a closer look at the mice. Ryan Burson starts pounding on a deck not far from the table. Ben, Ben, he yells, sit here! With a new teacher, there aren't any rules yet, and everyone is thinking they can sit anywhere they want. Frankie, Tommy, and Dennis have claimed desks all together on the other side of the room. I've been in a classroom when that has happened. Ryan's a skinny little kid who wears glasses. One of the lenses is covered over with a patch, and the other lens magnifies his good eye. He's always peering at people out of that one big eye. He's the most hyper kid that Ben has ever met. It's like his mother gives him a pound of sugar right before he leaves for school every day. He drives Ben crazy. He drives the other kids crazy. He even drives the teachers crazy. We all know a kid like that too. Shh, I'm that kid sometimes. Don't tell anyone. Ben wishes he had a real friend. Not like Jenny, who only talks to him because he sits in front of him. Or Ryan, who is officially wacko. He'd like to find someone like Toby, his best friend back in Arizona. Sit here, Ryan says again, pounding on the desk like a bass drum. It's the only empty seat. The kid is a human noise machine. He'd be noisy even if he were sitting still, which he never is. Ben glances around the classroom. The new teacher, Miss Tibbetts, hasn't arrived yet. Teachers are usually pretty good about not leaving a classroom unattended, but sometimes it happens. He looks at the mice again. Then he thinks about Mr. Tompkins, the director of the children's program at the Desert Museum. Ben loved that museum. He'd taken every summer class they'd offered for his age group, and he talked to his parents into taking him there almost every Sunday during the school year. I'm thinking Ben is feeling pretty sad at this point. He's missing his friend back from his home, or where he moved from his original home. He's thinking about all the things he's liked to do, the things he's missing, the snakes. I mean, right now I'm sitting home. I'm thinking about things I missed just a week ago. I couldn't imagine moving to another place and missing all those things. So we can all think of things that we're missing right now, and we can relate that to Ben and how Ben feels going to a new school. Mr. Tompkins had promised Ben that when he was a little older, he could help out on one of the summer programs. But then in December, Ben's dad was offered a new job. And 2 months later, his family picked up and left Arizona. Now he's stuck here looking at the mice in Massachusetts. He doesn't even have his souvenirs from the museum. The box that he held his favorite things from his bedroom got lost in the move, and the moving company can't find it. This is how I feel about everything I left in my classroom. They said school's done, and guess what? We went home. Well, we were home when we were told that. So I bet a lot of you are missing some of your stuff. I know that when I left work, I saw pencil boxes. Some kids left their lunch boxes. Same kids all the time. A jacket was maybe left in the classroom. So we can relate to how Ben feels with missing his souvenir box that got lost. Because we had to leave some stuff behind too. I know I did. I left my lunchbox on my desk on accident. So when I went today to the park, nowhere to put my lunch. Ryan is still pounding the desk, calling for Ben. But it's like the kid has forgotten what he really wants, and now just enjoys the sound of his own pounding and chanting. Here, 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 he's saying. Ryan Bryson, Frankie Murley shouted a creaky voice. Ryan Bryson, could you kindly shut your trap for once in your life? He's still imitating an old woman. Dennis and Tommy had a couple of other boys who always laugh at Frankie's jokes. Let aloud, Goffins. Miss Tibbets still hasn't arrived, and the kids are all standing up, talking and making noise. The longer there's not a teacher in the room, the wilder it gets. I can relate to that, especially when I was in school. Even the mice in the cage are agitated now, running around like the students in the room. Ben knows how to handle mice. He undoes the latch, reaches in and scoops up one in his hand, then latches the door shut. He lets the mouse run from one hand to another. Oh, he's holding a mouse. That's a little gross to me. I would never hold a mouse. Ever. He lets the mouse run from one hand to another, putting each hand in front of the other that's holding it. So he's going like this. Hey, wow, what are you doing? Ryan jumps out of his seat and skips over to where Ben is holding the mouse. Are you supposed to do that? No way, another kid says. Old Miss Tibbets would kill you. They're probably for a science experiment or something. Other kids gather around. Ben is holding the mouse close to his face, looking at his twitching nose and bright eyes. He thinks about how the workers at the museum fed the mice to snakes. At first he was upset, but Mr. Tompkins had explained that it was all part of the life cycle. It's sad, he'd said, but all species depend on other forms of life to live. That's why there are so many mice, to make sure the species survive. Of course, we're at the top of the food chain. There's a lot of us, but that's because there's no one to eat us. Interesting, something to think about. You should put it back, Jenny says to Ben, before Miss Tibbets gets here. She's twisting her fingers in her hair like this, like she's the only one who's going to get in trouble. It's okay, Ben says. I just want to see it for a minute. Ryan reaches for the mouse, trying to get it out of Ben's hands. Let me hold him, he says. I'll be careful. No, Ryan, Ben says, twisting around to shield the mouse. He's protecting him close to his little body. Ryan manages to grab Ben's wrist with one hand. Wait, Ben yells, and Ryan clamps down on the little animal with his other hand. Afraid the mouse is going to be crushed, Ben lets go. Ryan lifts it up in the air like a trophy or something. It's terrible. I've got it, he shrieks. It's squirmy. Ooh. Well, duh, Frankie sneers. Well, duh, three other boys echo. Those boys are followers. You don't want to be a follower, especially to someone who's mean. Ryan tries to hold on to the mouse, but it crawls out of his hands and runs down his arm. Ah, he yells, and the whole class starts screaming. The mouse leaps off Ryan's arm, lands on the floor, and skitters under the desks, looking for a safe place to hide. But there's no safe place, not with a bunch of fifth graders after it. I teach fifth grade. I can say I agree with that. Get it, Frankie shouts in his old woman voice. Killer mouse on the loose. 3 or 4 kids squeal and run to the opposite side of the room. Like it really is a killer mouse and might hurt them. It climbed down my arm. Get it. Ryan is dancing around in circles of kids who are on their hands and knees looking for the mouse. 3 or 4 of them corner it in the front of the room. I'll get it, Ben says, pushing his way through the crowd. He's about to scoop it up when another voice yells out and everyone freezes where they are. Who do you think it is? What is going on in here? Ben turns to see a woman standing in the door of the classroom. Who do you think it is? There's a moment when nobody says anything, and then everyone runs to their seats, trying not to laugh, even though they know they're in trouble. Ooh, let me get comfortable. My back's starting to hurt. All right, let's see. It's funny and scary at the same time. Now it's Ben's chance to catch the mouse, so he kneels down and scoops it up, then turns to face the teacher. I think Ben is a nice kid. That's what I think about Ben so far. He hasn't really done anything to make me think otherwise. He's helping the mouse. He's ignoring Frankie's craziness. Let's see if that stays. Miss Tibbets is an older woman, but nowhere near 100 years old. She stands straight and tall, not bent over at all. Ben is never good at guessing how old grown-ups are, but he figures she's about as old as his grandmother Maroney. Her long graying hair is pulled back behind her ears in a braid that reaches partway down her back. She's wearing a bulky wool sweater and a long skirt. But the most interesting thing about her is her feet. She's wearing a pair of old leather hiking boots. Ben has never seen a teacher in hiking boots. Not like my shoes. I got my sneakers on. Before anyone can say anything else, Frankie stands and points at Ben. He let the mouse out. Frankie sounded happy. Why would he do that? Why? A lot of people like to see other people get in trouble, but Frankie loves it. He let the mouse out and I told him not to. Miss Tibbets looked at Ben with her eyes squinted a little, like this. Still looking. Ben holds the mouse up with his hands. He can feel his own heart beating. Ta-tap, 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 ta-tap. It's okay, I caught it, he says. Put it back in the cage, please, she says. Everyone in their seats. The entire classroom watches as Ben walks across the room. He opens the cage door and slips the mouse back in. The rescued animal scurries around the cage, jumps over a couple of other mice until it reaches a corner and huddles there like nothing unusual had happened. Miss Tibbets tells Ben to find a seat and walks over to the small teacher's desk in front of her class. Here, Ben, shouts Ryan, pounding on the desk next to his. Sit here. There's nowhere else to sit, so Ben slides into the vacant desk. Ryan gives him a lopsided smile, and Ben looks away. How do you think Ben's feeling right now? How would you feel if you were Ben? That's what you have to ask yourself. How would you feel if you were Ben? Well, his reading's making my mouth dry. He feels like he's balancing on a tightrope, trying to be nice to Ryan, but not too nice. Ben doesn't want to be mean, but the kid is too hyper to be a good friend. And Ben knows that being nice to Frankie's favorite victim will make him a target. It's enough to make his head hurt. There's a lot of stuff going on in 5th grade. Miss Tibbets writes her name on the board and stands at the front of the class for a moment, waiting. It gets very quiet. Even Ryan seems to be holding still, which is a minor miracle. My name is Miss Tibbets, and I'll be teaching you science for the rest of the year. Most of you probably know I've been a teacher here at Edenboro for many years. I took a little time off, and now I'm back. I want you guys to brainstorm. I know that you all got a new science teacher this year. Was it in March? It was a little earlier. But what are some reasons that teachers can leave and come back? Think about what you know from teachers that you've had in the past. Why had a teacher left and come back? The teacher walks back to the front of her desk, taking her time. Ben sneaks another glance at her hiking boots. I expect you to sit in your seats the moment you come to class, whether I'm here or not. She pauses and looks around. And please do not touch anything in my room unless you ask my permission, especially animals in cages. Animals are living things and need to be treated carefully. They're not toys. Frankie turns and looks at Ben and wags his finger. Miss Tibbets walks over and puts a hand on his shoulder. Ugh, Frankie squawks like he's being strangled. Dennis laughs. Miss Tibbets glares at Frankie, then returns to the board in the front of the class. She writes down a bunch of words and asks the kids to copy them into their notebooks so they can look them up for homework. Ben wonders why she doesn't just hand out a sheet with words on them. Have you ever wondered this if your teacher did this? If she had you copy something instead of just giving it to you? While the kids are writing down the words, Miss Tibbetts patrols the aisles. That means she walks back and forth. When Miss Tibbetts passes by Ben's desk, he notices that her hiking boots are a little muddy. He wonders if she walked to school or something. Then he looks back over at Mice again. Miss Tibbetts walks down the row of desks, then turns up the next aisle. When she gets to Ben's desk again, she leans over his paper. Oh no, do you think Ben's gonna get in trouble? I finished, Ben says. She reached out with her wrinkled hand and jabs a short, crackled fingernail at a word on his paper. Miss Crutcher has a fingernail polish on her fingernails, Ben thinks. Not Miss Tibbetts. Let's bring Tallulah to read with us. Okay. So Miss Tibbetts doesn't have nail polish on her fingernails. Ben looks at the word under her finger. He sees that he accidentally left the T out of nocturnal. Nocturnal. Do you know what the word nocturnal means? This little thing right here is nocturnal. Well, not as much as a bat. That means when you could see or you come out at night. So every night, Tallulah decides to run around the house like a loon tune because she is nocturnal. Bats are nocturnal. There are plenty of animals that are nocturnal. Later, why don't you look up what animals are nocturnal? So, he already knows what the word means. Something that comes out at night. He fixes the spelling. She's watching me read. Right, Tallulah? Oh no, Tallulah! The teacher leans over the desk a little further and asks in a soft voice, "What is your name?" Then he says, "Ben Maroney. Miss Tibbetts' sweater doesn't smell like school. It smells like the outdoors. Like wood smoke and fresh air." "Good," she says, looking right at him. The lines around her eyes and mouth turn down a little, making her look sad. "Ben," oh, there she goes. "Ben, please don't touch those mice again. Do you understand me?" Ben feels his face get hotter. He nods, but he wants to defend himself too. "I've taken care of mice before," he mutters. "I know about them." Has something like this ever happened to you? When you were trying to do the right thing and you got in trouble? Me too. "They're not pets," she says. "I know about how to hold them," Ben says, but Miss Tibbetts has already straightened up and is starting to walk away. "If they're not pets, what are they for?" Ben asks a little louder, and a couple of kids turn around and look back at him. Miss Tibbetts looks back at him too, her eyebrows now raised. Ben can feel that he's pushing it a little, but he wants to know. Are they for bait or food or maybe an experiment? I know someone who feeds mice to snakes. Is it something like that? He asks. Now everyone is watching Miss Tibbetts to see how she's going to react. Ben waits for her to get mad. Do you think she's going to get mad? She doesn't. Her lips scrunch up, almost like she's trying not to smile. "Go over the words one more time, Ben," she says. "I brought the mice in to show the second graders, and we're not talking about snakes today. Maybe another day." Miss Tibbetts goes back to the front of the room and begins to talk about the differences between warm-blooded and cold-blooded animals. Interesting. Ben is only half listening. He already knows all that, but he hears a word that makes his heart skip a beat in his chest. Snakes. Snakes. What do we know that Ben loves about snakes? He looks back at the mice again and then up at Miss Tibbetts with her gray hair and crackled fingernails and baggy sweaters and hiking boots. The chapter ends with the word hiking boots. What I want you guys to think about is the chapter mentioned hiking boots several times. Now, I don't think I've ever had a teacher that wears hiking boots. I mean, I usually wear weird shoes, cats on them, birds, rats. I have all different types of shoes, but never hiking boots. Now, I don't know if you know a lot about where Ben moved to, but you can research it on the internet. So, a couple of things to keep in mind. We're learning about different animals. There's mice being introduced. Miss Tibbetts came back from a leave, meaning she was gone for a little bit of time. And now we know that Ben is super interested about her hiking boots. I wonder why. When I get off of my Read Aloud channel, I want you guys to talk to maybe a mom, a dad, cousin, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, brother, sister, dog, cat, goldfish, whoever lives with you. Remember, we're social distancing. Why does Ben focus on her hiking boots? And especially in relation to animals. That is the end of chapter 1. Tomorrow, we're going to pick up at chapter 2. Now, like I said, we're going to think while we're with family members tonight, or while we, are Skyping one of our friends, or FaceTiming, because, this is for the whole 5th grade. Why are we focusing, or why does Ben in his head focus on hiking boots? Think about when you meet a new teacher, right? When you meet a new teacher, or a friend, or a person, what do you notice about them, and what does it tell you about that person? I mean, look at how I'm dressed. I'm a little weird, right? I got rainbow pants on. I got a cat that doesn't have hair. I got these super weird coasters on my table that are cats. What do things tell you about people? So tomorrow I will read chapter 2 to you. And I hope everyone is social distancing and enjoying the time they have with their family, because it's not often that we get to spend endless days with the people that we love. For now, Miss Camastro and the cats are leaving you. Enjoy your day.